Today's episode is brought to you by PG Sports. Head on over to pg-sports.com. You can buy a ton of merch on there, from t-shirts to hats, you name it. They got the best merch in the game right now. You can go there, enter in promo code Tater. That's promo code Tater for 15% off your next order. And be sure to check out their podcast as well, Average to Savage. It's an awesome podcast featuring new interviews from athletes every single week. So check that out. Again, that's promo code Tater for 15% off your next order, pg-sports.com. All right, welcome back to Tater Talk, episode 71. Let's try this again, boys. Episode 71. We recorded 2 weeks ago. I was on vacation 2 weeks ago, but we still attempted to record an episode. It was around the trade deadline, which arguably would have been the biggest episode of the year because the trade deadline is the most exciting time of year. But we had technical difficulties, something we couldn't work around. So we had to take that week off. Took the week after that off, but we're back. Episode 71. How are you guys doing?
Let's just act like it never happened and all these guys just magically appeared on the teams they're on now and just move forward.
That's pretty much exactly what we're going to do, and it sucks because we did have a lot of input on all of the trades. It was a pretty active trade deadline, I would say, and there have actually been some pretty notable trades since the trade deadline that we'll get to in a little bit. Because obviously the trade deadline seems to mean less and less each year because of all these waiver deals. So we'll get into those a little bit later. Graz, how about you? How are you doing?
Good. I'm happy to see you back on the state side. Maybe we can record something. This is good.
Yeah, no more Canadian Wi-Fi, which is apparently a plus. I guess they don't have the best internet up there. So without further ado, we'll jump into our favorite stories as we always do, starting with Zach. What was your favorite story? I guess from the past week. I guess it could be from the past couple weeks since we haven't recorded. So what's been your favorite story?
So my story is from this past week, and I like the weird stories, sort of the off-base stories that just keep baseball interesting. And this one was definitely interesting and a little bit gross at the same time. Between the Yankees and White Sox, the umpire had to go into the Yankees dugout. No one really knew what was going on. The trainer was looking at him. With the help of the trainer, he pulls out a pretty large size moth out of the guy's ear, which is frightening. I mean, that's sort of my nightmare scenario, having like a bug stuck in my ear, just flying around. So, I mean, props to this ump though. He pulled it out and he kept umpiring. So
he didn't even react.
I
would be freaking the hell out. That guy didn't even crack. His facial expression did not change throughout the entire process of taking the bug out of his ear. And it was a moth. Moths freak me the hell out. And it was a pretty good sized moth too. We actually tweeted the video out on Twitter at Tater Talk Pod, and someone responded saying that it was the smallest moth they've ever seen. Get the hell out of here with that. I want no part of that thing. If it's visible on the camera and I could see it flapping its wings, that thing's huge. I want no part of moths, especially moths that fly into my ear. Mosquitoes are bad enough when they like buzz near your ear or something like that. That's the worst feeling ever. So when it's a moth, I can only imagine.
I don't get how this guy could, like, instantly when this happened, I would have stopped the game and be like, there's a fucking moth in my ear. Like, he wasn't even that, like, alarmed by it. It was insane.
Postpone the game. We'll start again tomorrow. I can't do tonight because that would scar me for the rest. That's all I'd be able to think about. Graz, do you have a favorite story?
I do have a favorite story. I guess favorite is not the right word. I'd say more of a somber story, but it's one of my favorite people in baseball. Felix Hernandez got sent to the bullpen, which is a kind of a somber thing. And since he played on the West Coast, we don't really talk about him that much, but his dominance for about a 10-year stretch, he was one of, if not the best pitcher in baseball. He claims he's not going to stay in the bullpen, that he's going to get back in the rotation. And I don't know if that's true or not.
Yeah,
I'm rooting for him, but his no-hitter, was that a perfect game or a no-hitter? I think it was a perfect game.
Perfect game.
Yeah, and all the stuff. And I could just tell you that he came to the East Coast and we beat the Yankees. We beat up on the Red Sox. He was one of the best pitchers. Great guy. Crazy dude. All in. Big fan.
Feels like he's been around forever. And it does feel like he hasn't been the same probably for at least 3 years now. I'd say he's been, you can see this coming from a mile away. It wasn't a sudden decline. He's been steadily declining for some time now. But I'll always know him as King Felix. He was, I know a ton of MLB players when they answer the question, who is the hardest pitcher you've ever had to face? More often than not, it's been King Felix for this generation. So shout out King Felix. It's been a pleasure to watch him. I hope he can make a comeback because that would be my favorite don't call it a comeback of all time on this show. I don't see it happening, but maybe a bullpen stint is what he needs to snap back to the King Felix, or at least show a flash of the King Felix we all used to see.
He had a funny moment, too, with Beltre this week, yes. Where he struck out Beltre, and Beltre looked so bad on the swing, and they both had a laugh about it. Yeah. So that was a cool moment. Both those guys are legends, for us growing up. So
they're best buds, too, those two, Beltre and Felix Hernandez. They used to be teammates, obviously, in Seattle. So that was a cool moment for sure. That should be up there as a favorite story, too. But my favorite story from the past week was something that happened last night, actually. It was the Cubs hitting that walk-off grand slam. It was David Bodie. And it wasn't like a walk-off grand slam where they're down 4-3 and they only needed 2 runs. You know how that can happen sometimes and the final score ends up being 7-4 or something like that? No, they were down 3-0, bases loaded, 2 strikes. This was your typical, you're in the backyard pretending like you're playing wiffle ball or something, and you're like, all right, 2 outs, 2 strikes, bases loaded, and you play out that moment as a kid. That's what this moment was for a rookie, no less. So this was my favorite moment. He had the bat flip after, which he actually apologized about. I think that's bullshit. I hate this whole bat flipping and then apologizing. I like what Mark Canha of the A's did earlier this season when he was like, nah, screw that. I'm not apologizing. I'm going to bat flip every single time. And we need more of that type of attitude in baseball.
Big Cat from Barstool had a funny tweet. He's like, this is going to be the opening scene of the Cubs documentary that's done on this season, which I thought was pretty funny. But yeah,
probably would be.
Hopefully the Cubs can build out this momentum. They haven't been playing that well, but they've been winning games. So just some weird energy around Wrigley again, which always means a long, deep playoff run.
Speaking of winning games, the Boston Red Sox, me and Zach are very much enjoying watching this Red Sox team. It looks like the team of destiny, the team that's supposed to win it all this season. They should be considered the heavy favorites. However, I think we'll get to this in a second, but with their pedigree the last 2 seasons in the postseason, I'm not getting my hopes up yet. But they're 9.5 games above the Yankees, who I don't know what's going on with the Yankees the past month or two, but the Red Sox have taken control of this division. Mookie hit for the cycle, which I don't think that's that cool of a thing, but we'll get to that later too. And then they had that 19-12 game against the Orioles, which was also insane. So all of these things together make it seem like nothing is stopping this Red Sox train.
Yeah, and Graz, I think last time we recorded, we didn't get your opinion on the sweep that happened at Fenway Park between the Yankees and Red Sox.
Yeah, so let's hear that.
You guys, what do you want from me? What do you want? What are we looking for here? That I'm
blood. I want blood.
Yeah,
I want blood. Okay, I mean, the team of destiny was the 0-1 Mariners, so let's not get too excited here. They won 116 games. Great time, playoff series for a reason. You still have to go through Houston, who has the best rotation I've ever seen, but that was demoralizing. I think afterwards the division is wrapped up. I don't think, unfortunately, as a podcast, has been rooting for this division race to come to the wire. I don't think it's going to come down to the wire. It doesn't seem that way. And you guys are like, what's happening to the Yankees? The Yankees are still playing like 650 ball. It's just that the Red Sox are playing this outrageous pace that no one can get to. It's ridiculous.
I think the reason that we're saying that about the Yankees is because our main memory of the Yankees the past month is the sweep, which that was pretty much all she wrote when it comes to the division. I will say this, though. If you're a Boston fan, I cannot understand you if you're getting really comfortable right now, because we've seen this team collapse before. Of course, it was for the wild card. It wasn't for the division. It was a little bit different back then when that infamous game against the Orioles decided everything a few years back. But there was that. And there's also, like I said, their postseason pedigree the last 2 years has not been good. So it's exciting. Enjoy the moment, because this team, it could come to a screeching halt come postseason time.
Yeah, again, I feel the same way that you do, Justin. I think most sane Red Sox fans do until they win a playoff series. It's nice and cute that they're on pace for 115, 17 wins, but let's see it in the playoffs.
And it's sounding a lot like suddenly we're sounding a lot like Patriots fans. You know what I mean? This is what we say about the Patriots every single year. Yeah, this regular season's cute. It's pretty much just talk to me in the playoffs. That's what it is with the Patriots every single year, and that's what it is with the Red Sox this season.
But the difference with that is the fact that the Patriots don't have any competition until they get to the end. When I think the Red Sox are going to have to play a 5-game and a 7-game series if they want to get to the World Series.
That's a good point. The Red Sox don't have any competition really in the regular season other than the not even the Indians really, the Astros and the Yankees. That's pretty much those are the only two teams that have been a competition. They just swept one of those teams.
Yeah, I honestly think the best 4 teams in the MLB are in the American League right now. So it's definitely not going to be an easy road for the Red Sox.
And you're not even talking about the 5th team. The 5th best team is also in the AL too.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about all that later. We're actually going to talk about our playoff picks. We're going to finalize those in a few topics here. Let's move over to the AL West. Speaking of the A's, a different AL West team, though, the Angels. Mike Scioscia could be done at the end of the season. The Athletic had a report that he was finished at the end of this year. Scioscia responded to that report saying, I think he said it was a poppycock thing. He said it was a poppycock report. Weird way to put it. But I think you could have used other words, Scioscia, but teach their own. But needless to say, Scioscia has had a great run with the Angels the past 2 decades. So if it is the end, I think he's had quite the career there, and I wouldn't blame him for calling it an end this season.
Yeah, I actually think he's underachieved with the Angels teams he's had. So I think it's just one of those things where it's time for a change. It's time for a new voice in that dugout. I think it's been Scioscia for so long. It's starting to get stale. I mean, they have better talent than their record shows, and they have for the past couple of years. So I think he's gonna, whether it's a mutual thing at the end of the season, because it'll look pretty bad if the Angels fire him after all he's done for that organization. So I think it will be sort of a mutual agreement type thing.
For sure, it'll be mutual. And I think we brought up on this podcast, I don't know if it was last episode or 2 episodes ago, we sort of hinted at the fact that we think Scioscia is an overrated manager. I think we were referring to he's an overrated manager nowadays. He's gone through a lot of teams that did not really have great lineups, and they made it into the postseason. And it was like, how the hell did this team make it into the postseason? So Scioscia had a great run, but you're right. It is time, I think, to turn over that position, start fresh with the Angels as I would say they're going to turn into a new team rather quickly. I mean, Pujols is on his way out. Obviously, they're going to still have Ohtani and Trout, at least for a little bit longer. So we'll see how that goes over in Anaheim. Another AL West team who we just mentioned, the Oakland A's. What has gotten into this team since the last time we recorded? Because I think they were starting their run our last episode, but they've kept it going the last 2 or 3 weeks. So they're surging. They are 2.5 games behind the defending champion Astros in the American League West. So we'll start with the A's. What are your thoughts on the A's? Is this a flash in the pan, or is this team for real?
Like every night, I just see that they win, and I have no idea how with the lineup they're putting out there. Like there's some good players in that lineup. Chris Davis is on pace to chase JD Martinez for the home run race. Jed Lowry's having a career season. Matt Chapman, another guy that's pretty underrated. Matt Olson. They just win. Like this is the classic Oakland A's. The Oakland A's have been this team that's just always out west and a mystery, and they just win games quietly because their games end at 1 o'clock Eastern time. And we're like, oh, the A's won. Are they good? I don't know. I don't see them play. But this team's legit. And they got some help from the Mariners. I know we'll talk about. They swept the Astros. So this is now a race in the AL West because the Houston's dealing with some serious injuries. And Oakland they just don't lose anymore. Their bullpen's stacked as well.
You know what team this A's team reminds me of? The 2007 Colorado Rockies. The 2007 Rockies started a little bit later. Their run, they went on that crazy win streak, and that streak extended into the postseason all the way to the World Series when they got crushed by Boston. But the A's have been going on this run with pretty much a no-name roster. I mean, if you're not a hardcore baseball fan, I guarantee you cannot name more than probably, I would say, 4 players on the A's. That might be a lot. 4 players. I'd probably give you some credit if you named 4 and you're just a casual baseball fan. So, and the Rockies, they had pretty much a no-name rotation too. Same thing with the A's with this rotation. I mean, they have like Sean Manaea and Mike Fears, who they got from the Tigers. So those are really the only two guys who I wouldn't even call them household names, but the two most popular pitchers on that team. That speaks a lot. So the A's are doing a lot with what appears to be a little. So we want to talk about wild card teams. I mean that in two ways. They're probably going to make it into the wild card game, and they're a wild card as in they could do anything come postseason time.
Graz, as a Yankees fan, who would you rather play, Oakland or Seattle right now?
Right now, so I'm playing now or for the wild card game? That's a big difference.
In the wild card game.
In the wild card game, Oakland.
So you would rather face Oakland?
Yes, because that wild card game comes down to their pitching, and their pitchers don't scare me, but James Paxton does scare me.
Paxton scares you more than Manaea? Because Manaea has better numbers. I know, I get what you're saying, Big Maple. But...
Big Mate, I don't know. Just, I guess on whim, I've seen him pitch more. So it's the whole thing again. Where Manaea might have better numbers, but I've seen Paxton pitch more, and they've talked about him more on like the MLB Network and stuff. So I guess I'm more afraid of him.
See, if some crazy situation happened where the Red Sox ended up playing in the wild card game and they had to face the A's, I would not feel confident about that at all. If they faced the Mariners, I would feel confident. So I'm actually the opposite to you, Graz. I think that I'm scared to death of this A's team. I hope the Red Sox avoid them entirely in the postseason.
Yeah, the A's could just shorten the game, too, at their bullpen. Like, Seattle has Colomé and Diaz, but after that, their bullpen is almost as bad as the Red Sox.
Right. Yeah, that's another reason why don't get too excited if you're a Red Sox fan, because the postseason, the Astros didn't have the best bullpen last year, but it was still better than this Red Sox team's. That's another reason not to be too excited if you're a Red Sox fan. So the Mariners, we just spoke about them sweeping the Astros, and we don't have to go too far into this right now, but if you're an Astros fan, how much are you sweating right now with the injuries, how good these other two teams are, the Mariners and the A's? What's the panic meter at if you're an Astros fan?
God, for the division, I think it's probably at like a 7.5 right now. I know they just got Correa back, so that'll help, but Springer's on the DL. Altuve is on the DL. They just got swept by the Mariners, and the Astros threw their best arms.
Yep.
I mean, Seattle won yesterday. Keuchel versus Erasmo Ramirez. I mean, the Astros were probably minus 215 to win that game, and they lost. So, and they were close games, too, where their bullpen sort of blew it at the end. Ozuna blew the game last night. So I'd be a little bit worried because it's not like you're dealing with one team where you can just watch them. You got to win because Oakland or Seattle, one of them is winning each night. And there's actually a huge series coming up. Oakland, Seattle, it starts tonight with Manaea and Gonzalez from the Mariners. And one of those teams is going to win. So the Astros have to keep winning to keep this lead.
It's going to be interesting. We still have a whole month and a half to go. And we know by now that anything can happen in this month and a half. So I'm just excited to see where it goes. And by the way, Safeco Field, beautiful ballpark. I'm sure there's a lot of proposals there. So Zach, speaking of proposals, you're going to quiz us on the cost to propose at each MLB ballpark. I'm interested in this. First off, what made you put this on the topic list?
So I was going through the baseball Reddit for topics for the show to see if they always post weird shit on the baseball Reddit that has really nothing to do with anything. But I saw this thing and I thought it was pretty cool. So how much did it cost to propose at every major league stadium? I think the costs and the teams for those costs would sort of surprise people.
Okay.
So let me just get out of the way. There's 5 teams that don't allow proposals at their ballparks.
Oh,
which is pretty weird. It's Toronto. So none in Canada.
Canada again.
Yep. The Angels don't allow them. The Kansas City Royals don't allow them. Baltimore Orioles don't allow them. And the New York Mets do not allow proposals at their ballpark, which
Who would want to get married? Who would want to get married at the Mets ballpark? You need a winning marriage.
That's a good point.
You're going to go down and hurt your knee on the way down and then get hand, foot, mouth to your wife.
You beat me to it, Graz. I was going to make that same joke.
I'm the New Yorker. You have to.
That's a good point, Graz.
God forbid something nice happens at that ballpark. A proposal is way too happy for anything to go on at the miserable where the Mets play.
All right, so what MLB team, and you have to keep in mind the ballpark as well. I think that's a good point. What team do you think has the highest amount of money to propose at their ballpark or at their
cost the most?
Yeah, cost the most.
I have a guess, but I'm going to let Justin go first.
I'll go with Fenway.
It's not Fenway.
Los Angeles, the Dodgers.
Yep, it's the Dodgers.
How did you know that?
It's Hollywood. Everything's expensive in Hollywood.
Oh, okay.
Can you guys even have like a guess on how much it is to propose at a Dodgers game? Like they do the whole big screen on the
I'll
scoreboard.
go $5,000.
Graz, do you have a guess?
I'll go $3,000. Price is Right rules. I
Price is
hope.
Right rules.
$2,500 to propose
We both
at.
lose.
We
Yeah.
both lost, but that was a pretty good guess.
Yeah.
So they did this thing by like the teams with the highest cost. Next to the Dodgers, you have the Nationals at $1,500, Tampa Bay Rays at $500. Who would ever get married at?
Well, they can't make any money with their ticket sales, so it's like let's hike up the prices for the wedding proposals. I guess I don't know.
Yeah, so with
And
the
Tampa
Rays,
Bay, you have to be pretty trashy to propose at Tropicana
Propose at a
Field.
Lightning game. Have you been at the Lightning Arena? It's awesome down there.
Yeah, you're probably better off doing that.
so all the other ballparks and teams at $500 for a proposal is the Astros, the Phillies, the Cardinals, the Marlins, and the Indians, which is pretty surprising because the Red Sox are in at $350 to propose at Fenway Park, and the Yankees are at $100.
Wait, the Red Sox are $350. That's it.
Yep, $350 to propose at their ballpark, which is pretty
that blows my
inexpensive.
mind. It's $350 for a hot dog there.
I know. So you might as well get married while you're at it. I thought, I saw that. I was like, if I had a girlfriend that I wanted to propose to and she was a Red Sox fan, I mean, that's pretty cheap, but it's also pretty tacky at the same time.
Can I throw out a disclaimer here? No one should propose at a ballpark. That's just my personal opinion. And I know our guest from a few weeks back, Jessica Kleinschmidt, she hates ballpark proposals. That's kind of her brand on Twitter, and I'm with her on it. I can't stand it. There's got to be a better way than that. Than like no one at the ballpark cares that you're getting married. Nobody, except some like disgruntled girlfriend who their boyfriend isn't proposing. So they look at it and go, they're getting married. Where's mine? And so then you have to listen to that for like the rest of the day. It's miserable.
I feel like this is close to home. Has this happened?
No, actually, but I can picture it happening sometime soon.
Isn't that your worst fear? Is like you do this whole ballpark proposal thing and your girlfriend like doesn't even look at the screen. You're like, look at the screen, look at the screen.
Yeah, that too. And have you seen it was a video, it was football. I think it was like a high school football video. This wasn't a proposal, but it's a similar concept. The kid asked the girl at the prom and all like it was this big thing, was on the microphone and everything. And she goes, I already have a date. And he goes, and he says, what? I think it's just the most awkward moment.
That's a pure reaction to that. Like, what?
It's my favorite. It's one of my favorite videos. So like put that on a bigger scale at an MLB ballpark. And everyone who's sitting around you is waiting for her to say yes. And if by any chance she says something along the lines of let's talk about this or no or anything like that, you are screwed. That's not a good look. And everyone has their phones out too, recording it. So if something does go wrong, it's going everywhere. It's going viral in 5 minutes.
100%. Yeah, that's
a bad idea.
That might be the scarier part if she doesn't say, if it's not a stone cold yes right away.
Let's talk about
public
this.
Place. Yeah, in a public place. I mean, that's embarrassing.
And the whole crowd goes, ooh, it's miserable.
You can't sit there after when that happens. Like you have to get up and leave at that point.
You can never show your face at that ballpark ever again.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I would want to go to another baseball game there. Like, I don't want to ruin the ballpark.
Well, you're the guy that his girlfriend said no to him on the big screen, right? It would probably go viral.
All right, so say this plays out as well as it possibly can, and she says yes. You just sit there the rest of the game, and you're like, all right, let's just watch. Let's keep eating peanuts. Like, what do you do? You just that was really exciting. And you just sit back down and just watch the game. I don't know. There's got to be there's better ways. There's better ways. Like you can propose at a beautiful, I don't know, just go sightseeing and then propose there. Don't go to a fucking major league ballpark where there's peanut shells all over the ground and people puking and you don't want to do it.
And do it in private too. Like, so if you do get like a let's talk about it, it's not embarrassing with a bunch of people watching.
I can confirm people sit there and pee in their used beer cups and then put them down at ballparks.
And you want people want to propose next to a pea cup? Come on.
No, you want to do it on a nice sailboat in the Caribbean. Come on.
I can picture. I just have this image of this like hopeless guy kneeling. This guy just kneeling, and the thing's on the screen, and like she's like trying to take like a selfie or something, and you're like, "Come on, hey babe, look at the
and then it's gone, and
you look like an idiot. You're kneeling down, and then she's just like selfie. Like that's all girls do at games. So I mean, that was a sexist comment. I'm sure a lot of them watch the games, but you get the idea. All right, moving on.
Yeah, so the cheapest ballparks are Cincinnati Reds at $50, Colorado Rockies at $50, Braves at $50, and then the Pittsburgh Pirates at the cheapest, $39.99. You know those Pittsburgh guys, they're pretty cost effective there.
That actually is a deal because PNC Park is really nice.
Well, I was about to say, if there was a ballpark to propose, and I was going to ask you guys, which is that? Because I would throw out, I have someone who just went to the Rockies Park with the mountains in the background.
Yeah,
it's beautiful.
I was just thinking that Denver, I think, would be up there for like the scenery.
Yeah.
Actually, if it's not your hometown ballpark, that's probably better. Like you go to Fenway all the time, you probably don't want to propose there. If you're out in Denver, it might be a better situation.
If you make an experience out of it, like for example, my girlfriend and I, we went to San Diego, whatever, great time. If that's just part of your vacation together or something, and you just like, oh, like Petco Park, this is really nice. You want to do it there? That's one thing. But if you're going to go to your hometown park where you go like every year, and you're just like, babe, look at the screen, look it up there, and you're like hammered and you're just kneeling, that's a recipe for disaster.
Yep.
Before we move on, I'm throwing it out there. I'm taking all proposals. Listeners, please tweet in best places to propose. I will share the best ones on the show next week.
Perfect. Love it. At Tater Talk Pod, please tweet that at us because I'm intrigued. All right. We teased this the whole episode. Let's make our playoff picks. I think we have about 45, 50 games left, if I'm not mistaken. So let's just make our picks. It's called Pick It and Stick It. I like how you titled that, Zach. I think you threw that up there. I like it a lot. So we cannot turn our backs on this. This is our final answer, final predictions for the entire season. So I will start with the AL wildcard matchup. I got Yankees and A's. I think we're not picking winners, right? We're just going.
No,
okay.
We'll just pick who makes it.
Good, because I'm not sure about that one yet. NL wildcard. I got Braves and Dodgers. This one was the toughest one out of all of these picks. The NL wildcard could go so many ways, but I went with Braves and Dodgers. The Dodgers have been struggling a little bit lately, but I do have hope for them because they are the most talented roster, and I believe talent wins it all in the end. AL East, Red Sox, it goes without saying they're 9.5 games up, so if I didn't pick the Red Sox, that'd be too much of a hot take. Central, Indians, they're running away with it. The rest of the division is absolute hot garbage. The West, I still believe in the Astros. I'm not confident in this pick, but I just cannot bring myself to bet against the defending champs. Again, they have the talent. They just need to get their guys healthy, and they do have the best pitching rotation in the league. NL East, I'm going with the Phillies. I'm a big believer in the Phillies. I've finally given up on the Nationals. I think for our mid-season predictions around the All-Star break, I was still a believer in the Nationals. No more. I am a believer in the Phillies, and I think the Cubs Grand Slam was the tipping point for me, where I was like, okay, this Nationals team, it's a disaster. I'm rolling with someone else. So the Phillies there, which is miraculous with Gabe Kapler as the manager. Central, I'm going with the Cubs. I think they hold off the Brewers, and notice how I do not have the Brewers making it into the postseason. So I'm interested to hear what you guys have to say about that. And in the West, I have the Diamondbacks holding on. I have the Diamondbacks holding on to this division. I like their rotation a lot. I think it's very underrated. They have Patrick Corbin leading the charge. He's one of the best left-handed pitchers in baseball this year. So I have the Diamondbacks holding on by a thread in the NL West.
All right, some interesting picks there.
Yeah.
I'll start AL wildcard. I'll go Yankees, Oakland, just as you said. I think Seattle will drop off. I think this – I don't want to say this sweep was a fluke in Houston, but I don't think it has staying power. It'll be interesting to see when Cano gets back too, because Ryan Healy's been hitting really well for them, and they don't really have a spot for him. So we'll see how that goes. The NL wild card, like you said, toughest I think to peg down right now. The Rockies just took 2 out of 3 from the Dodgers, I think, or they might have even swept them. So I'm gonna go Milwaukee. And then I'm going to go LA. So that will be my wild card. They just had a great series, too, out in LA. So that'll be an exciting series, exciting one gamer to watch. Right. I can't believe that one of those teams will sort of be out of the playoffs after that. For the divisions, AL East, Red Sox, they're fourth right now. Central, Indians, I think they're kind of going under the radar here. They've been playing a lot better lately, and Jose Ramirez is up there for MVP. I got to go with Houston. I think their guys will start getting healthy and get back, and I think their starting pitching will start to get in order there. Still sort of worried about their bullpen. In the NL East, I'm going to go with the Braves.
Okay.
I think the Phillies will drop off. I'm just not a huge believer in them at this point. In Washington, as you said, Justin, they need to go on a run, and they're just not doing it. So, and that grand slam last night, that's a shot in the heart.
Yeah, and Harper's actually been playing out of his mind since the All-Star break, and they're still not picking up the pace. So that says everything you need to know about the Nats this season.
Exactly. So I'm going to go Cubs, like we talked about, grand slam, huge for their momentum while it killed the Nationals. And then in the West, I'm going to stick with the D-backs. I hate to say the Rockies won't make the playoffs, but it looks like that at this point. The NL is stacked with wild card teams. If Colorado was in the AL, they might have a better shot just because there's a lot of worse teams, but they're going to be playing all these teams, and I like the Dodgers and D-backs a little bit better than the Rockies at this point.
All right, we actually have pretty similar picks there. I like it. Graz, do you have picks? Are your picks in?
My picks are in. Why not? Sure. Okay, I'm just pointing something out before I begin this. In my beginning of the season, I had this pretty right, most of it. I'm doing pretty solid. I kept it. I paid attention. So I had Boston, Cleveland, Houston as the division winners, and I thought the Yankees would go because in the wild card. I'm going to take Seattle as my other American League wild card. I don't think Houston can keep the pace they're winning. Literally, just based on talent, they have to regress to the mean eventually. Just in the heart of hearts, I believe that Seattle is a better team. They have better players, and they're rallying around the whole like Cano's not their thing. I think they'll make it happen. NL-wise, I am not giving up on Washington yet. I refuse to give up on Washington. They have too many good players. I really think they can make a run. They're only 6 games back. There's about a month and a half, 2 months left. I really think they can do it. There's a lot of time. And I'm very interested to see all the 2 young teams in the Phillies and the Braves in this the September run for the pennant to see if they can continue the trend and still play above what they think they are, as the Nationals have done it multiple times before. So I'm sticking with the Nationals. Your Cubs are fine. I think they're going to win handily. I'm going to take the Dodgers. I think they're going to rally around and start playing better. Manny Machado can go on one of those tears because he hasn't really been playing super well. So I'm going to take the Dodgers. And then in the wild card, I'm going to have an awesome, fun wild card game. I'm going to take the Milwaukee Brewers. And you guys are not believing in my Rockies. I thought this was a Rockies podcast. I'm going to be interested in a Brewers-Rockies wild card game based on I want to see that and no scientific evidence.
I am glad you put the Rockies in there because
they're good. They're playing well.
They are playing well. I'm glad you put them in there because I wanted to put them in there and I felt bad not doing it. But it's like we said before, this National League is just so jumbled up. It's hard to get a read on what exactly is going to happen at the end of the year. It could go so many different ways. Going off of this, I'm excited for 2 NL East teams to potentially make it. The Braves being one of them because of their young talent. Acuna, Albies, Mike Foltynewicz has been one of the best pitchers in baseball this season, very quietly. And then the Phillies, solely because of Aaron Nola. Aaron Nola has become a bona fide ace, one of the best pitchers in baseball this season, and an NL Cy Young candidate. So that's a guy I want to see make a postseason run. I want to see what he's capable of in the postseason because he seems like a guy who has balls for the postseason.
I have a Nola question for you guys before we move on quickly. My Red Sox friends all watched him pitch at Fenway and were blown away. What was your reaction?
So nasty. I like when guys like this are on that kind of stage because I need more Aaron Nola in front of me on TV, like on a national, like Sunday Night Baseball stage, because that's how guys like that, with how shitty MLB marketing is, that's how guys like that become popular. And a guy who's in a pretty good market, Philadelphia, should be way more popular than Aaron Nola is right now. This guy's going to be a star.
I'm not as sold on him as everyone else. I'm just going to keep myself quiet and see if he digresses, and then I'll jump on it and say I told you so.
We'll see. Postseason is when we see what they're made of, because no matter what you do in the regular season, if you suck in the postseason, just ask Clayton Kershaw. People will turn on you real quickly.
Yeah, you can put up good stats. You see what Sale did to the Orioles yesterday? It was just it was almost embarrassing for them as a franchise. Yeah.
That was so mean to Baltimore. Speaking of that, Graz, I think I might as well just Venmo you $1 now because the Orioles are eliminated from playoff contention. So I think what I'm going to do, it's August 13th, I think. Is it? Yeah, August 13th today. And the Orioles were eliminated from playoff contention 2 days ago. So I have to Venmo you the $1. We'll screenshot it, put it as proof at Tater Talk Pod, and you're gonna make a video of you buying something with that $1. I hope.
What is worth $1? That's what we need to figure out as a podcast.
You're gonna go to the dollar store and find it something.
I've been very invested in getting. I went to an arcade recently and got like a cool spinning top, so maybe I'll get a bigger collection of tops.
You can do that too. Whatever it is, you gotta let us know. You gotta turn this into content.
Or like a fake bow tie that I could wear to a game. Something like that.
I like how you already have so many ideas.
Well, I was hoping for ones, but you guys kind of, shit the bed, so I need to think of better ones.
All
yeah,
right.
buy a knick-knack, dude. That's all you can get for.
Yeah.
You're not gonna be able to buy anything like.
Oh, I know what I want. I want like 3 of those like jumping frogs, like the plastic frogs that you could like push on their butt and they would jump.
You're just naming like all things you can win at an arcade for cashing your tickets.
That's
Like
exactly.
like a Pez dispenser.
I may have
something
been
like
in an arcade today. People forget.
Oh man. So this, in all seriousness, this might be the most lopsided bet that I've ever made in my life because the Rays are above 500 and the Orioles, I think, are 35 and 85 or something like
49
that.
and a half games back. I just checked.
Yeah.
49
This is the
and a half.
worst bet I've ever made in my life. So I'm just glad the stakes were only $1 because I could be in rough shape right now if otherwise. Let's jump into rapid reactions. So much has happened since our last recording that we're not going to talk in depth about all this stuff, but it is worth just quick reactions. I'm going to set a timer here for a minute. So without further ado, let's get this timer going. I'm going to run through these topics and we'll all react, and we have to be done in a minute's time. So ready, set, go. The Phillies traded for Justin Bour. What are your thoughts on that?
Huge pickup for them. Left-handed bat. We'll see where he plays. Would probably be better with a DH in the American League, but love it. Softball player in that ballpark will go far.
Yeah, Phillies needed to add a bat. They did with Justin Bour, so good addition for them. Kenley Jansen out a month with a regular heartbeat. How will this affect the Dodgers down the stretch?
Yeah, I mean, you saw versus the Rockies this weekend. They were, their bullpen was terrible. So I think it's actually a huge loss for them, and I hope he gets better. That's a pretty serious issue.
Yep, I think this ultimately is what cost them, and they will be a wild card team, not a division-winning team. Tebow out for the year. No more chance at making a comeback or making it into the MLB.
Yeah, I think he had a serious shot to actually get in that bat with the Mets this year. So sad to see.
It's very sad to see. Leonis Martin, Indian center fielder, bacterial infection. I guess it's life-threatening.
I hope he gets better. That's the only take I have on that.
Get well soon.
Yep.
That was exactly a minute. We just destroyed that. We raced to the finish line on the Leonis Martin one. So in all seriousness, I do hope he gets soon because that sounds like some serious shit. It sounded like we didn't care, but we ran out of time. So I just had to let that be known that we do care about his health. Let's jump into our segments now, starting with duds. Who is your dud of the week, Zach?
Yeah, so a lot of candidates this week. I mean, I could go Crush again because he's just so fucking bad. And I was watching some of those guys and he was terrible. But I'm going to go with the guy just came back for the White Sox. He's on my fantasy team, so I just see him struggling so much that I just need to put it out there. Avisail Garcia from the White Sox. He's been terrible. He's been under 50 this past 7 days. Hasn't got a hit. He's been going against bad pitching. I just don't know what's up with him. He was hot when he came back. Now he's absolutely terrible. So he's my dud of the week.
Didn't he bang someone's wife when he was on the Tigers? Oh, Prince Fielder. That was who it was. He banged Prince Fielder's wife while he was with the Tigers. That's how he got traded to the White Sox. Little fun fact about Avisail Garcia. That's the most notable thing he's done in his career.
Yep.
My dud of the week is Jose Quintana. When the Cubs got Jose Quintana, I really did think it was going to be this huge addition, like changing the entire rotation. I thought when he was on the White Sox, he was awesome, and so I expected him to be the same with the Cubs. He hasn't really been the same. I think his ERA for the season's in the mid fours, if I'm not mistaken, and this past week's been a tough one for him too. I think his WHIP from the past week has been like 2, which if it's in the 2s, you're having problems. So Jose Quintana is my dud of the week. We'll move on to when you're hot, you're hots. I'll start here. I'm going to go in a different direction here. Usually we go with the best offensive player or the best pitcher. I'm going a little bit different here. I'm going with the best defensive player, who is Adam Engel from the White Sox. What he has done this past week defensively in center field, I've never seen anything like it. He robbed 3 home runs this week alone. Usually if we see a guy rob 1 or 2 all season, they're one of the best center fielders in baseball. Adam Engel, forget Pilar, Jackie Bradley Jr., Kiermaier, all these guys. Put this guy on your radar because he is making noise defensively.
The White Sox ballpark is so conducive to robbing home runs too. Like I feel like every center fielder they have just ends up robbing home runs. And he's like, yeah, like you said, he's got to be talked about like all those guys. He's unreal athletic.
Yep.
When you're hot, you're hot. You saw him last night pitch for the Cubs. Cole Hamels.
When you're hot, you're hot.
Different guy now that he's in a Cubs uniform. I think we all kind of knew it was going to happen too. Like this guy just goes into a playoff race and pitches like he did for the Phillies in what was that, 08?
Yeah.
So mine's Cole Hamels.
It's the Justin Verlander effect minus the Kate Upton. He is his career. You get revitalized as a pitcher when you're going to a contender. When you're playing for the Texas Rangers, you don't have that inside you to go out and compete at the highest level every day. It's not make or break. Pitchers, I mean, I'm not exactly an ace MLB pitcher or anything, but I would imagine that when you go out to the mound and you know that this means something, that you take it up a notch. And I think that's what Cole Hamels is doing since joining the Cubs. I think that was a great addition for the Cubs. And I said this as soon as this was on the lost episode when we talked about the trade deadline that we didn't get to post because of technical difficulties. But I said Hamels he's gonna be a different guy. It's the Verlander effect. This is what happened with Verlander on the Astros. So this could help the Cubs make a run come postseason time.
100%.
All right, so we got the mailbag coming right up. Graz's mailbag. Let's hit us with those mailbag questions.
Oh, I always got good questions for you guys.
Yeah. Here's the mail, it never fails. It makes me want to wag my tail. When it comes, I want to wail.
Update. This is just a me question that I just thought of. Do you think the same thing is going to happen with Jay Happ and the Yankees?
What do you mean by that?
Like with Cole Hamels, like he's going to get like resurgent.
I think Jay Happ is Jay Happ. I think you know what you're getting there. And I'm not saying that necessarily in a bad way. I just don't. I mean, you're comparing Cole Hamels and Jay Happ. I think they're two completely different. One has a higher ceiling than the other. And I think Happ could make noise for the Yankees once he's fully healthy and all that good stuff. And he could help them in the postseason. But I don't know. I think Hamels is a different guy than Happ.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think his ceiling is as high as Hamels, but I do think if he's pitches well, he's probably the Yankees' best pitcher right now with Severino's struggles.
That too.
Yeah.
They were on the same postseason roster on the Phillies. Same rotation.
That is true. Yeah.
The more you know.
Yep.
Him and Cliff Lee, who's all, oh God, I love Cliff Lee.
What a guy that was.
Is that guy still like around playing?
No.
No, I hope he's still coaching like high school baseball. Like I hope that's where he ended up.
Yeah.
That guy walked like 3 batters a year. It was insane.
Okay. Do you want your questions?
I do.
Big time question. We're starting with a big time question from my friend Mike. Is WAR an overrated stat?
I feel like that's a loaded question. You could definitely make an argument for it because you look at WAR and you're like, I don't know how this is being computed, or at least I sure as hell don't. Because Mike Trout seems to be leading WAR at all times by a significant margin. And I just do the eye test, and I think, Mookie Betts is having a better season. I would say JD Martinez is having a better season offensively. And I know defense is calculated into WAR, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. I look at a lot more than WAR when I try to figure out how good a player is. So, yeah, it's overrated, but I also think it means a lot. So I think, I see both sides of the argument on that one.
Yeah, I think it's a good metric to include in a discussion. But like Justin said, I have a metric. It's called the eye test. Yeah. And that's what I like to use.
Yeah, I think we're getting a little carried away, or I should say these big-time baseball writers like the Brian Kennys of the world and the Ken Rosenthals of the world, they're getting caught up in these stats, this WAR, and like all these advanced metrics, which no doubt they have a place in baseball, but they shouldn't be the end-all be-all. Like we shouldn't just look at these numbers and be like, that's the MVP. You should be able to watch the tape and be like, that guy is the most valuable player, not just looking at the WAR leaderboards.
Cool, man. Some people say. I don't understand stats. Like I like stats. I like 6 stats, and then other than that, I don't like them when they get too complicated.
It just seems like 1 year, like a few years ago, WAR just came out of fucking nowhere, and everyone's like, "This is important." Look at this.
It was when Miguel Cabrera was going for the Triple Crown.
Yeah, and then he was going up against Mike Trout for MVP, I believe, that year. So, and there was that big thing, and it just came out of nowhere. No one knew what WAR was before that, and all of a sudden we care about it.
On the Red Sox broadcast this weekend, Steve Lyons was like trying to explain it, and he had no fucking idea what he was talking about. So like, I don't think anyone understands what it even is.
In all fairness, I would not be able to explain it to you right now. I would have to do some research.
Yeah, you saying it like, how is Mike Trout better than Mookie Betts in WAR? Like, I don't even know how WAR is calculated.
And I think it's actually weighted more towards center fielders. I think that's a big reason why. Like, if you're a center fielder, you can, like, your ceiling WAR-wise, I'm going to sound like an idiot here, but WAR-wise, your ceiling is higher than, say, Mookie Betts, who's a right fielder. I hope that makes sense.
You guys walked directly into the next question.
Okay.
It's a Red Sox question. Perfect for you guys. Do you think there would be or could be an effect if Mookie shifted to center field full time?
What do you mean by that? Like, would he be better or worse?
Would he be better or worse? Would you want to see it?
This is a kind of a controversial opinion. I've been anti Jackie Bradley Jr. for probably the past 2 years, and he's actually picked it up since the All-Star break. But I've always been of the belief that the Red Sox would be a better team if you put Mookie in center field and keep JD and right, because JD is an underrated fielder. People think he's trash defensively. He's not. He's a serviceable outfielder. So I think Mookie's an outstanding fielder. So if you put Mookie in center field, you're not losing a ton defensively. You'll lose some, but your offense is immediately improved. So I think Mookie Betts, if anything, would be known as a better player than he currently is if he played center field, which is obviously a more flashy position.
Yeah, I like him to stay in right now, the way we're going. So I think he would probably have the same stats if he was in center field at this point.
Yeah, and like you just said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It's working right now what they're doing, so I would hate if they changed anything. Let's be clear with that.
Do you think, as a Red Sox fan, you guys have been watching for a long time, that Fenway psychs people out and like psychs different managers out for putting certain fielders out there? Because I know they always talk about like you have to play the tough left, and right field is pretty much a center field at Fenway.
Yeah, I would say it gets in. I don't see how it couldn't get in managers' heads. It's the weirdest looking stadium in the league.
100%, yeah.
Okay. Next question. Continue with your Red Sox questions. We'll just go through all of them right here. Cora, how does he handle Sale's pitch count and get him ready for October?
If they straight up did not pitch him at all, except maybe like 1 or 2 starts the rest of the year, I would not complain. That being said, obviously they can't do that. They got to make sure, he's ready for the postseason. They got to give him reps. I don't know how, if you're Cora, take him out every game in like the 6th inning, 7th, don't let him go too deep into the games, like with 110 pitches, because that's where I'd start to panic. You need this guy for the postseason or else you're going nowhere.
Yeah. I mean, where the Red Sox stand right now, they could pitch him every like 7th or 8th day and just kind of make it work. So like, I was sort of surprised they took him out versus the Orioles, but at the same time, I know he's sort of slowed down the past last year, at least, and in the past couple of years and late in the season. So the fact that we have a cushion, might as well use it to our advantage and rest him a bit.
At this point, Cora has earned my trust. So whatever he does, I think will end up being the right move. He's a first-year manager, so maybe I'm being too passive, and maybe I should criticize him more if he leaves him out there for like 7-8 innings. I trust his thoughts on it. I think he's going to handle it fine.
Makes sense.
On to the next one.
Next. Yankees question. We'll continue with the rivalry. So just came in today. CC Sabathia is on the 10 to ADL. I'll ask you guys first, and then I'll provide an answer, obviously, as the Yankee fan of the pod. Where do the Yankees go? Who should start for them? Do you think they're okay? Stuff like that.
Who should start in the wild card game? Is that what you're saying?
No. Who should start in CC's spot?
I guess, who would you do? Like Sonny Gray? Like, I don't think you could do that at this point. I really don't know who you would throw out there.
That Adams guy?
I think I'm throwing Chance Adams. Yeah,
Chance Adams? All right. I guess you could do that too.
I think I throw him, see how he does, and then after that, make a decision and maybe throw Sonny Gray.
So how done are you on the done scale with Sonny Gray?
I'm not. I'm the only Yankee fan that still exists that's not 100% done on Sonny Gray. I'm like 70% done on Sonny Gray.
Didn't he pitch 1 inning yesterday and give up like 5 hits?
Yeah, he was awful.
Oh, he did?
I
didn't see that.
He was good the first time out of the bullpen, and then this time he was god awful.
That sucks.
I know, and he's just so good. I think he's going to move in the off season. I think they're going to, during winter meetings, move to a small market. I don't think he can handle New York.
It certainly seems like that's the case.
He's bipolar. Like he's literally lights out, and then he can't get a guy out.
He also was not very good with the A's right before he got moved to New York. Let's be like his ERA was upwards of like 4.55 when he was with Oakland in his final season there.
I was running on the like 12, whatever, 12, 13 seasons where he was dominant. I'm like, oh, they could get it back. We have Larry Rothschild. The guy's the man. He'll figure it out.
Right.
Update, they didn't figure it out. Next question.
Nope.
Are the Indians still a threat in the AL playoffs? No one seems to be talking about them. They have 2 MVP candidates, and Corey Kluber is still one of the coolest people in baseball.
Yeah, if you're not scared of the Indians, especially as a Red Sox fan, you're an idiot because we've already went through this 2 years ago when the Indians fucking destroyed the Red Sox in the ALDS. No one cared. Everyone wrote them off, and then the Indians made it to the World Series that season. So, yes, you should be very afraid of the Indians. They have enough talent to surprise a lot of people this postseason, just like they did 2 years ago.
Yeah, if you're playing a 7-game series, they throw Kluber, Bauer, Carrasco at you. That might be the top 3 in MLB right now. All those guys are pitching unreal. Red Sox, I mean, Sale at the front, but after that, it's a question mark. And the Indians have 3 solid guys who all have playoff experience. So
I'd be very, very afraid, especially since they improved that bullpen with Brad Hand. If Andrew Miller comes back 100% and is the guy who we've grown accustomed to him being, that's scary. Cody Allen, if he can figure it out, then suddenly that bullpen's nasty, and they have an experienced, probably the best manager in baseball, in Terry Francona. So, yeah, you should be very afraid of the Indians.
Yeah, they were in the World Series 2 years ago. You know, they still have that core that's there.
It is weird to me, though, I'll say this, that they don't have a better record in that trash division. That's the weird part.
They're just not motivated. They're just like, all right, we'll just win this division.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm a big Indians guy. Also, there's nothing scarier, I think, than playoff Trevor Bauer. Playoff Trevor Bauer is one of my all-time favorite pitchers.
Psychopath.
Oh, one of my favorites. All right.
Let's hope he doesn't cut his finger on a drone again.
No, for your sake, you hope he does that.
Well, yeah. Cleveland fans, I should say.
Yeah. Boston fans, let's get more drones out there.
Yeah, fly drones. Bring all your drones to Fenway if he's pitching.
Oh my God! How many? If you put out his address or something, like have Boston fans just ship drones to him and like the ALCS.
He'd probably love it.
People are just flying drones while he walks out of his house. There's just drones.
I have an idea. Sneak in paintball guns and just aim for his nuts the entire start.
Yeah, gotta sign a multi-year deal. That guy's an idiot. I'm still upset about that. Okay, last question.
There's no chance he doesn't sign a multi-year deal. Let's be real. Just
take the paintball in the nuts. I've done it. You're fine. You'll be fine. Last question. Your last question is more of an ambiguous question. What is your first baseball memory?
Ooh, I like this question.
If you guys want to think about it, I have my answer.
Anything, or does it have to be like at a game or?
No, it doesn't have to be at a game. Mine's I was thinking more like baseball, like MLB baseball, but it could be like your own baseball memory too.
Yeah, like I'm going to include MLB. I'm going to give an MLB memory because obviously my first actual baseball memory is myself in like Little League. Yeah. So when it comes to actual MLB, can I give 2? Because I'm not sure which came first. So one of them, my first ever Red Sox game that I went to, was Red Sox Tigers. I remember, I'm pretty sure we had decent seats too. And I remember Carl Everett I think he hit 2 home runs that game. And he became my favorite player. Little did I know how much of a psychopath he actually was when I was seeing him live, but I loved his stance. I just thought he was actually really good for the Red Sox that season, I think. So I loved everything about him. So Carl Everett became probably my first ever favorite player. So that's one memory. My other one is I talked about earlier how I was just in Canada for vacation, and I go there every year, visit my family, this whole big thing, whatever. One of the years I did that, I had to have been like 5, 6 years old. And I remember watching their version of SportsCenter. I think it's TSN, whatever it was back then. It might've been Sportsnet, whatever they have there in Canada. And it was, you know how SportsCenter, they repeat highlights over and over every half hour. And I remember every half hour, I kept seeing these highlights of Frank Thomas hitting absolute lasers. So Frank Thomas, I just kept seeing him hit balls 500 feet. And I was like, this sport is awesome. I need to watch more of this. So those were my 2 first baseball memories.
Yeah, my first MLB memory. I mean, probably any kid in New England walking up from the concourse at Fenway Park for the first time. I mean, I don't think there's anything like it in baseball.
Right.
Just walking up and seeing the monster and the environment and the smells and that whole thing, like Yawkey Way, that whole thing. As a kid, I mean, as a kid Red Sox fan, that's it. I mean, that's the pinnacle.
Yeah.
So I think that's got to be my first memory, of baseball, going to a game.
Graz, what about you? What's your first?
Mine's not going to the game, actually. My first baseball memory is the 2000 World Series. I remember sitting there watching the whole game with my dad. I will share the picture with you guys. I'll tweet it out on our Twitter of me and my dad watching the World Series. And I remember the last play vividly. It was a fly out to Bernie Williams. Mike Piazza hits an absolute moonshot off Mo. And I'm like, oh, that's it. They tied the game. We're upset. We're not going to win. And then Bernie Williams caught it, and we all got excited. And I remember, and there's nothing like beating the Mets. There's nothing like beating them.
What's the first World Series you guys remember? Because the first World Series I actually remember is that Yankees-Padres World Series, whatever year that was.
How about the Padres being in a World Series in our
98.
life?
That was 98.
98, yeah.
2000 was the first one for me, but I'm a little younger.
First World Series that I remember, I would go with, you might be surprised by this, probably when Luis Gonzalez hit that walk-off blooper. I'd say that's probably up there.
That killed me as a 6-year-old.
Yeah.
Like 6-year-old
That was
me
probably
is
the
dead
first
of that.
vivid. I remember the others, but that's the first vivid memory. I would
What
say.
year was that? 99?
No, that was 01.
01.
01.
Yeah.
And then I remember not watching the World Series in 02. I don't think anyone watched the World Series in 02.
Who was that?
was
Giants, Angels?
Angels, yep.
Yeah.
And then Josh Beckett ripped out my heart in back-to-back
In 03.
years in 03
Yeah.
and then 04. And
Oh my God, yeah. Josh
But-
Beckett.
Josh Beckett's on my murder list. Like, if he gets murdered, come to me. I did it.
That's
Let
not
me-
a guy you mess with. He's probably.
I was just about to say, you might be on his murder list now.
Yeah. God, he hurt me so bad.
So we actually did this a couple weeks ago in our last episode. We did do the video game bracket update. I forget who our candidates were, so let's run through those really quickly, Graz. The ones who won a couple weeks ago, and let's give our winners for this week.
Okay, so last week we had Waluigi move on over Mark Teixeira, and Speedy Pete Wheeler moved on past Anthony Freeze, which was
That's
very
such
fun.
a funny sentence. Yeah, all right. So last week we had Waluigi above Mark Teixeira, and
Waluigi should have passed easily. There was a whole debate about it, but it doesn't matter.
okay.
This was easy. We're moving on to, is this the semifinal? No, the quarterfinals.
EA Sports. It's in the game.
All right.
Two quarterfinal matchups for you guys.
Don't forget to post the bracket this time. People probably have no idea what we're talking about. We never post the bracket.
It's
Gotta
because
post the bracket.
I was going to, but then you decided to do the entire podcast in Canada and fuck it up. So
Fair.
now we're here.
That's a
So-
fair rebuttal. I'll
Yeah,
tell you. It's a fair-
Yeah. So I will post it today, immediately after this podcast. I think.
All right. All right. What do we got in the quarterfinals?
Quarterfinals. Number 1 seed Pablo Sanchez against the 9 seed Nick Markakis from Power Pros. You can go back a couple episodes where I made a distinct argument to Zach on why Nick Markakis should continue moving on. But
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
no, I
Sanchez.
disagree.
If
Zach,
Pablo Sanchez isn't in the final, it's a complete sham. To be
Yeah.
honest.
no one can listen to this podcast and take anything we say seriously if Nick Markakis beats Pablo Sanchez.
Tuma might have a heart attack too if you say Pablo Sanchez
Yeah.
doesn't make it.
Do not let Tuma hear that.
Fine.
All right.
Pablo in a landslide. I
Pablo
completely
wins.
agree too. Okay, this is a good one. Here we go. We got Manny Ramirez, cover boy Manny Ramirez versus John Dowd, the greatest baseball player of all time.
Wow,
This is a
good
tough one, but I'm going to go with John Dowd because one's a cover athlete and one's an actual player. I got to go with the player because John Dowd is a legend in like his own right with Barry Bonds being the replacement for Bonds and just being so nasty in that game. John Dowd will live on forever as one of the best baseball characters of all time.
I'm gonna go John Dowd too. He's more of a legend because they tried to make a black guy a white guy named John Dowd. So
Yeah.
that's just even more.
If I remember correctly,
Appropriation is that?
They tried to be as less like not Barry Bonds at all. I'm pretty sure John Dowd was also a right-handed hitter. So he was a white right-handed hitter who was very skinny. and like just not Barry Bonds like at all, but he had the same power. That's all that mattered.
Yeah, John Dowd, gotta be.
I'm taking John Dowd too. You guys are completely right. I hate Manny Ramirez, so good. All right, next week we'll do quarterfinals on the other side, then 2 semifinals and finals. We're done in 3 weeks. Just perfect for the end of the summer.
Love it. All right, one last thing from Graz. Hit it.
One last thing. If you are not interested in pennant baseball, then get the fuck out. Because I keep talking to people that are like, wow, this is so boring. The Red Sox are so far ahead. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Then watch an NL baseball game, for God's sake.
Yeah.
Everyone is within, I'll bring up the standings. I lost them. Everyone's within like 3 games of each other in the NL wild card. So every game matters. It's super interesting. I watch a shit ton of MLB Network because it gets me excited. I'm going to bring up the stats, as you can tell. I'm stalling a little bit. I lost it. Okay.
That Cubs walk-off grand slam was an indicator of what we're going to see. Maybe not like walk-off grand slams, but exciting stuff for the rest of the season.
The Rockies had a couple walk-offs too this weekend.
Yeah. They had a walk-off walk. Like weird things are happening now. And that's where we're gonna see the rest of the season, because we're getting to the tail end here, and teams are gonna start playing out of their minds, especially in the National League.
There is 8 teams within 7 games of each other in the NL wildcard picture. So every city kind of matters unless you're in Baltimore.
I will say this, as a hardcore baseball fan, I am not excited for anything in sports, not just baseball, I'm not as excited for anything as I am for the wild card games. The 1-game playoff it's the craziest atmosphere in sports, because after a 162 game season, it's do or die. All 162 games go up to that one moment. There's nothing like that in sports.
Yeah, I was about to say a top 5 sports moment is a 1-game playoff in baseball, winner take all. I mean, there's not much more
amazing.
than that. Yeah.
And there's people who do not like the 1-game wild card playoff for the exact reason that I just gave, that they think one game shouldn't be decided by 1 game after 162 games. Fuck that, because that's what makes that 1 game so exciting, is that so much is on the line. They just played their asses off for 6-7 months, and this 1 game is all that matters. That's awesome to me.
Exactly.
It's awesome because you guys are watching it as baseball fans, not a fan of a team. Let me tell you, if that game's in Fenway, you're shitting your pants because it's awful.
Yeah, but it's also so exciting. Like, you're on your feet for every single pitch, and I want to be a part of that atmosphere. I don't want to, but I want to.
Fenway needs to host one. It's going to be awesome at Yankee Stadium again this year because they get raucous and crazy.
It'll be so electric, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like, if you're the fan of the team, it's like win your division. You don't have to deal with that. You know, it's one of those things.
Well, if the other team in the fucking division wasn't winning 116 games, maybe my 103 win Yankee team might win a goddamn division. Okay, Zachary?
Well, that feeds into like the playoff thing. We can touch on another podcast. The way they seed the playoffs is fucking retarded now.
Well, the fact that the Yankees have to play after they win the wild card game, have to play the Red Sox and not a 7-game series is horseshit.
Yeah.
It's not what I want.
All right, that's a good note to leave on. We'll wrap it up there. Be sure to follow us at Tater Talk Pod on Twitter. That is where Graz will be posting the bracket for the video game bracket. I'm very excited to take a look at that because these next couple weeks, we're going to have some tough decisions to make in the next couple weeks with that bracket. Also, like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram. That's also at Tater Talk Pod. And I think we'll leave it there. Any last words? All right, we will see you guys later.
Peace.
It's a beautiful night. We're looking for something dumb to do. Hey, baby.